Hello and welcome to Artist in Focus, the series where we take a look into an artist, their work, their life, and then we do some art exercises based on that. So over the series, we'll be looking at lots of different artists, textile artists, painters, printers, sculptors, and today we're going to be looking at a ceramicist. So her name, and I'm just going to bring the slide up now, is, if we've got that slide ready, lovely, quickly go back so you don't see all the good stuff. There we go. And I've got the amazing Andrea backstage helping me out with this, so thank you so much, Andrea. Today's artist is Mary Seton Watts, a Scottish painter and ceramicist. Now, her work is a rich mix of symbolism, both religious and mystic. It also has natural elements. There's Art Nouveau influence in there. There's social reform. There's a Celtic revival, and also she was involved in the arts and crafts movement. So quite eclectic all of her work was. So she sometimes referred to her maiden name, Fraser Tytler. But although she married a famous, and I'll show you a photo of him, a famous Victorian painter, George Frederick Watts, she carved out her own legacy. And it's that legacy which is why I'm here today talking about her. Because in 1891, they moved from London to a village in Surrey called Compton. So it's near Guildford, if you know that sort of area. Now, her husband, they moved there because of her husband's health, the sort of dirty London streets. So they moved to the country for the health reasons. And also her husband was quite a bit older than her. And they set about designing and building an arts and crafts studio home called Limner's Lease. Now, limner from the old word meaning artist and lease meaning to glean. Now, you can still go and visit their art studio. If you look up Watts Gallery in Surrey, then you'll be able to go and visit. There's not just this studio, but there's also galleries. There's the obligatory tea room. And also what is probably the most amazing part of her legacy is the Watts Cemetery Chapel, which is here. So built 1895 to 1898, all the building was completed and the exterior was completed, and then it took a few years to complete the interior. So if you think the exterior is quite impressive, we've got a picture here. On the right is the entrance, and then on the left is the detail of that entrance. So Mary was best known as a ceramicist, and she was well respected in art circles, as well as being a supporter of women's suffrage and also of social reform. And it was the high rural unemployment that she saw with her own eyes in her village and surrounding areas that prompted her to set up the Compton Potters Arts Guild in 1898. Now, I'm sure that it's no coincidence that it coincided with the finishing of this building, and it probably is one of her greatest achievements. From doing a little bit more research on her, and also, I don't know, just the feeling I get from some of the photos and the paintings of her, she kind of exudes this kind of calm exterior herself. And I can imagine that she was very methodical in all of her ways, and there's a gorgeous sort of slow craft in this. She must have been a really amazing teacher as well, because if you look at the detail on the left, then you can see that although they are certainly uniform, so under her instruction, these terracotta tiles were made by over 70 villagers, resident villagers from around where she lived. You can also see that they've each got their own lovely little character as well. So, as I said, if we look a little bit closer, then we can see the Celtic influence and also some of the other sort of religious influences that that helped her to design these. I love the natural elements as well, the snail design. Both snails on the first and the last picture, but also quite different as well. They've each got their own little character. And then we see more of the Celtic, these knots, these swirls in the other photo as well. So if you think that that's quite impressive, then if you do get a chance to go to the Watts Gallery and also visit the Watts Cemetery Chapel, then the inside is just a different world. It's an amazing experience. And before I show you the photo, I would say these photos really don't do it justice. I think you do have to go there yourself. I'm not sponsored by Watts Gallery, but it's definitely worth going. I went just about a year ago, and had an amazing day. So here is the inside of the chapel. So you can imagine these vaulted ceilings. There isn't a patch of ceiling, of wall that isn't covered in some sort of decoration. And at about eye level, there's like a frieze that goes all the way round in relief, and it's made up of wild flowers. I'm not 100% sure if they're native, but all these different flowers go all the way around. And I'm going to show you next a video that shows how these flower friezes were made, how each little plaque was made, because today's art exercise we are going to base on the Celtic designs from the terracotta tiles that are on the exterior. We're going to mix that with a little bit of how each of this relief around the edge of the inside the chapel was made. So I'm going to show you a video now. If I share my screen. There we go. Thank you, Andrea. She's got it perfectly for me. So it's about a 6-minute video. It's totally silent. There's no sound at all. So as we're looking at it, I'm going to just be sharing with you some of the some nice little things that I found out about the chapel and Mary while I was researching. So let's play that for you now. Check that that's. Will it play? Let's see. Yes, excellent. Okay, so that first photo showed some of the people that were involved in making the chapel, making all the decoration for the chapel. And each of these panels, when you think they're nearly 137 years old, they really have stood the test of time. So the methods that were used were probably you know, far superior to the stuff that gets manufactured today. So the chapel came about because in 1985, Mary wrote to Compton Parish Council because the graveyard at the local church, St Nicholas, was full to capacity, and she offered to design and fund this new cemetery and chapel. And she began, not long after this, she began to hold Thursday evening pottery classes, and these were for local people, and she said that anyone could come along as long as they had a desire to learn. Anyone was welcome, and over 70 local people, men, women, families, all came along, and it's from these classes that the terracotta tiles were made. The ones that face the exterior on the outside of the chapel. Now, although officially known as Watts Cemetery Chapel, villagers in Compton affectionately referred it to Mrs. Watts' Wonder, and it certainly is. I would definitely agree that it is quite a wonder when you go in there. There are benches all around the outside, and I just sat in there probably for about half an hour. It got quite cold. It is quite cold in there, so if you do go, make sure you take it, even if it's in summer, take a jumper. It does get quite chilly in there. And every single person that walked in, they just stop, stand, look, and go, oh wow, it's incredible. Yeah, I definitely recommend going. I don't know if I've said that enough, but yeah, yes, please do take a trip if you can. So the people that worked with Mary described her as a formidable and deeply compassionate woman, and a villager who was involved in the chapel project recalled that she never raised her voice, but you never wanted to disappoint her either. That sounds like the perfect kind of teacher to me. So you can see how slowly these must have taken to make, how long they must have taken to make. You've got a lot of drying time, you've got a lot of prep time. Each of these are to one of Mary's specific designs as well. And as I said, there's a certain amount of uniformity, but each one has its own character as well. Quite messy too. For the 3D art exercise that we're going to try, it's not quite so messy. We're going to be using, apart from the final finish, which is either white acrylic or gesso, we're going to be using dry materials, you'll be glad to know, and they don't take long to dry. Don't take any time to dry at all. And if you notice as well, just near to the lady that's painting, there is a colour chart as well. So each of the colours is mixed up correctly so that it corresponds and it harmonises with all the other colours. And I think that's something as well, as I said, it's, you know, over 100 or nearly 130 years old, and the colours are still amazing. I'm sure they've faded a bit over time, but because there's not too much light in the chapel, the colours are still really vibrant. And I think part of that is because of this next part of the process, because they put the metallic on, so it really picks up the light. You can see very methodical, slow craft. So Mary actually dedicated the building herself, and she said the purpose was for it. She said she dedicated the building to the loving memory of all who find rest near its walls, and for the comfort and help of those to whom the sorrow of separation remains. And that is the list of all the people that were involved in the decoration of the hall, of the chapel. As you can see, men, women, there's some families there as well. I think I counted, I think it was 73 in all. 29 were women, including Mary. She's listed there right at the end, or very near to the end. And there we go. So that's how the inside of the chapel was. There we go. Oh. So Andrea, if I can have, perfect, thank you, before that advert came on. Yeah, so how the inside of the chapel was made. And that ends our little, not too much of a deep dive. There's so much more that can be said about her. That ends a brief history on Mary Seton Watts and her work. So now we're going to spend a little bit of time doing some art exercises. And as I said, we're going to do some 3D using some dry materials. You'll be glad to know. So if you do have any friends that are ceramicists, they do 3D artwork, then maybe you'd like to share this with them. Because I think they'd really enjoy doing it. Or if you're involved in any groups on Facebook, then please do share it. And also don't forget to like and comment. Let us know what you're loving about the series. Let us know what you'd like to see on this series as well, Artist in Focus. So let's get some artwork done, shall we? So we're going to share the presentation again, and we're going to bring up some things that we're going to look at. Thank you very much, Andrea. So this is just, sorry, I just wanted to show you very quickly, these are the stages from the video that we've just seen. So with the frame, the was it rabbit's skin glue, that sort of thing, and the hat felt, just how they were building up and then covering to give a smooth surface and then adding colour. So we're going to use this idea of building up materials in layers, and we're going to base it on our Celtic designs from the terracotta tiles. So what I would like you to do, so I'm going to pop down in a second, just move my notes. I'll move everything out the way. So for our art exercise, I'd like you to take some nice thick quality paper. I'm actually just using lining paper, wallpaper lining paper. Just use the back of any wallpaper. You could use some nice thick cartridge paper, paper from packaging, or from a sketchbook. It just needs to have quite a good sort of substance to it because we're going to be sticking things to it. Mine are sort of about 8 inches by 8. That's about 20 centimetres. So don't go too big with these. You can go smaller if you like. And we're just going to start by doing a little bit of a warm-up exercise. So I have a couple of bits of paper, and we're just going to base it on those Celtic designs. So we're going to just take another little look at our presentation. So we've got something to look at. There we go. And I'm going to pop you down. We're just going to have a few minutes just drawing. I'm not really going to time anything today. I think Mary's kind of got into my head a bit, and I want this just to be nice and relaxed and slow. Obviously we can't be on here all day, but you know, let's just take a little bit of time. We're just going to have a warm-up exercise first, just a couple of minutes, just drawing some of those sort of Celtic designs based on what we can see here. So I will pop you down and I'll show you what I'm doing. Let me just move that out of the way for you. Make sure you can see. There we go. Okay, so they all these designs sort of have a circular element to them. And these nice swirly patterns. So I'm going to draw which one should I draw? I'm going to draw the snail one. So it doesn't have to be perfect, it's just kind of getting us into that kind of mood for doing a bit of drawing. So much character in this little snail's face. It's almost comical. Oh, pressed a bit hard there. There you go. And I love the way that there was a different Celtic vibe to these, but she really had these natural elements and sort of a little bit whimsical in a way. I hope that's not too derogatory of her work. Okay, cool. So we're finished there. So say just a little warm up, just getting us into the idea of using these sort of shapes. So now I want you to take another piece of paper and we're going to draw our design for the work that we're doing today, which I'm going to explain a little bit more about now. So this is the relief, I'm going to call it a sculpture today. It's not technically, but let's call it that. So this sort of relief sculpture, and all that this is made out of is masking tape, newspaper, and then it's overprinted in and it's painted over in gesso or either a really good quality white acrylic paint. So using these designs, or maybe you've got a Celtic design of your own that you'd like to try, we're just going to draw the design on the paper. Then we're going to use the newspaper, we're going to rip it up, we're going to make it 3D, and then we're going to put it down with masking tape and then paint over it. So let's start with that. So keep it fairly simple, especially if sort of this is the first one you do. Again, it doesn't need to be perfect. So this is just giving us an idea. And I'm going to do sort of a leaf, sort of a stylized leaf design. I'll do any design you want. So bringing those natural elements and also that Celtic sort of influence in. And I might just keep it like that, just something as simple as that. There we go, just make sure that I can see those really well. If you want to, you can go over with a marker pen. Might do actually, just if I can find one quickly. No, I'm not sure when we're gone, so I'm going to leave it just pencil, but you could go over it if you want with a Sharpie, just so you can make sure you seal those lines, because we're going to be putting sort of tape over those. As I say, I'm not really going to give us a time limit for this. But you want to take your paper and then just tear it into strips. And then twist those strips. You could either double it up or do it singly. And I'm just twisting it so it kind of makes sort of like a cord-like paper. And then I'm going to tear off masking tape. So if you get quite a few bits ready, then this makes it easier for you, so you're not trying to hold down a piece while sticking it. So that's enough to start with. And I'm going to start with my spirals, just attaching the masking tape, sorry, attaching the paper with the masking tape. And as you attach the masking tape, just make sure you mould it around so that we can see those, so that you know these shapes still show up. Another bit of paper. It's a nice one to do with children as well. But if you're involved in schools, it's quite a nice one because it looks at design and it's quite simple, fairly simple to do and not too messy, and it doesn't take, unlike with clay where you've got to dry it and then it's got to be painted and then dried again. You've not got so much drying time. Okay, so that's 2 of my spirals done. So grab some more paper. I just need to attach that a little bit more. And you can really feel yourself sort of just relaxing as you do this. I can imagine that in Mary's classes, in her pottery classes, that once kind of the first sort of hubbub of everyone arriving and all that and sort of talking about what they've been doing, I can imagine the noise just dropped as people started making the tiles and Mary walking round, probably giving advice, giving encouragement. Okay, that's my next lot of masking tape sorted. So if you have just joined us, we are trying out some 3D art based on Mary Seton Watts, the ceramicist Mary Seton Watts, based on her work. You can catch up with this on the Virtual Village Hall Facebook page and YouTube channels at any time. So if you haven't got time to do it now, then you can save it and come back later to do it. And we're just using some of the terracotta tiles that were used to decorate a chapel and cemetery chapel that she commissioned, or she designed back in the late 1800s, that you can still visit today over in Compton in Surrey, near Guildford. And we're just building up the design using newspaper and masking tape. Okay, so that's the main structure done. Now I want to add these shapes, and if you've got any circles, flowers, those sorts of shapes, then I found the easiest thing to do, just rip the paper, it'd be quite noisy. And the easiest to do is to scrunch up a piece of paper to sort of about the size that you need, and then almost encase it in your masking tape so it sort of holds everything together, doesn't move around too much. And then just using scissors, neaten up, recut that shape in. Like so. It could have been a little bit bigger, but I'm fine with that. So and then just tape that down. Again, moulding the masking tape around all those lovely curves. And then just do the same. So you'll probably remember that with these artist in focus sessions, I quite like to keep them fairly short, sort of about half an hour. We are going to be a little bit longer with this one, just because 3D work always takes a bit longer. Plus, with bank holiday coming up, you might have a little bit more time than usual. So hopefully you'll be able to get something done. Get this done then. Cut some more personal masking tape. Then if you can remember on my design, I had just 2 little kind of teardrops on the actual leaves themselves. So I'm just going to do a similar thing, but with a smaller piece of paper. And just for ease, I might make them more kind of, well, just whatever shape they come out, really. Sort of organic shapes. There you go. That word covers a multitude of sins, doesn't it? Organic, rustic, abstract. They're all there. Time for some more. Okay, I feel like I need something just in the middle. I might just do a quick spiral in the middle. Okay, then we just need to cover any paper that you can see in masking tape, again moulding it around. We're going to go back and remold, so you don't need to take too long. These is just really getting the paper covered up so that when we put the gesso on, it looks all consistent. Okay, that's pretty much there, I think. Then just to make make sure those shapes stand out, take your pencil. You can either use sort of the non-lead end or the lead end. It doesn't matter if you use the lead end because it's still going to be painted over. And just go in. Let me get my tape there. You just want to use it to make sure that the masking tape is totally down and it's getting into all the shapes. Make sure that all those lovely 3D parts are standing up. And this will give your design that definition. Make sure all the masking tape is stuck down as well. Okay, last bit. Okay, then grab a paintbrush and your gesso or some good quality white acrylic paint, and we're going to paint all over, including the outside. But the gesso will give you a really good coverage. If you're using acrylic paint, you might need to allow it to dry and then paint another coat over the top. Okay, and I'm just going to go over with just quite a smooth brush, just smoothing out some of these brush lines, just because I want mine to look sort of almost, well, moulded ceramic plaster of Paris type effect. So just going to remove some of those brush. Okay, so leave that to dry, and then it will become really nice and hard, and you'll be able to see all of the relief a lot clearer. Now, I normally give you some homework for this, but I appreciate it's been quite a long session anyway. But what you could do if you wanted, you could paint this in a terracotta colour so that it matches our terracotta tiles from the chapel, or you could almost do as I showed you on the inside with that frieze, the with the wild flowers. You could even paint this if you liked. So it's entirely up to you. Leave it as it is, paint it terracotta, or paint it so that all of those little details stand out. So thank you for joining me. I hope after today's session you're going to do a little bit more research on Mary Seton Watts, because she really was an amazing ceramicist, tutor, just an amazing all-round woman, I think. I hope you've enjoyed that. Next month we have another artist in session focus. So another session of Artist in Focus, and we will be looking at Renaissance artists and in particular their sketches. So please do join me on Thursday 29th of May at 11 AM here on the Virtual Village Hall for another art session. I hope you've enjoyed that, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you everyone behind the scenes for helping me out today with all the videos, and have an amazing bank holiday weekend, and I'll see you soon. Bye.